Hello. Could you ever believe that on this earth, there exist creatures so bizarre that you would have to rub your eyes to see if you are hallucinating? There are species that sound like monsters from sci-fi movies. But no, they are all living right on this planet of ours. Today, let's go over the top 10 most bizarre creatures in the world that you may have never seen. The master of evasion, Malayan tapir. There are animals that just by glancing at them, you can tell something is wrong, and the Malayan tapir is exactly such a case. It looks like a pig but has a long snout like an elephant, a bulky body like a bear, and its coat color is distinctly divided into black and white, exactly as if someone accidentally applied the wrong skin. That is why the Malayan tapir is often called the creature of four unlikenesses. Don't let that gentle appearance deceive you. This is the largest tapir species in the world, capable of weighing over a ton and standing as tall as an adult human. It sounds bulky and sluggish, but in the deep forest, the Malayan tapir is a master of evasion. They do not attack, do not fight, and do not provoke. Just a strange noise or a fleeting scent of danger, and this ton-heavy animal disappears from sight in a split second. Sometimes plunging straight into the river, sometimes hiding in tangled bushes, leaving behind only the feeling as if it had never been there. A large, herbivorous, timid creature that always chooses to disappear instead of confronting. And that is only the beginning of the list of animals with appearances and behaviors that make humans wonder what nature was thinking when creating them. Completely contrary to the silent evasion of the Malayan tapir, the next species chooses an incredibly loud, conspicuous, and ostentatious path of survival. The blue-footed dancer, blue-footed booby. The blue-footed booby, an endemic seabird of the tropical eastern Pacific region. And what makes them stand out at first sight is not their wide wingspan, nor their diving ability to hunt, but their vibrantly blue legs, so bright that they look like someone just painted them straight on with a brush. At a glance, it seems ridiculous, but in the world of boobies, that blue color is not random at all. The legs are a public health scorecard. The bluer and darker the color, the younger, healthier, better at hunting, and carrying better genes that individual is. And then comes the weirdest part. The male doesn't sing to call a mate. They don't fight for dominance or build elaborate nests to score points. Instead, he lifts his feet, step by step, beat by beat, in a slow, clumsy dance that looks so silly it's funny. But that very dance is a matter of life and death performance. The female only needs to look down at the feet to decide the fate of her partner. Not blue, immediately rejected. Pale blue, reconsidered. Vibrant blue, chosen right away without thinking. In the world of the blue-footed booby, survival does not lie in strength, nor in intelligence. It lies in a very simple but extremely cruel question. Are you blue enough to be loved? After a bird that survives by color and dance, we meet another creature completely the opposite. It doesn't need to show off or impress. It just needs to stand there. The patient assassin, shoebill. The shoebill is a bird with a face that is frequently ranked as the most terrifying in the avian world. Its giant beak looks like an ancient wooden clog, or, more accurately, like the head of a crocodile mistakenly attached to a bird's body. From a distance, the shoebill seems heavy, sluggish, even stupid. Its posture is stiff, its eyes are soulless without any flexibility, but that is a perfect deception. In reality, the shoebill is a master of stillness. Amidst the suffocating and dense African swamps, it can stand motionless for hours on end, without blinking, without moving, without making a single sound, as if it itself were just a lifeless, rotten log. Until that single moment, the beak closes swiftly and decisively. There is no chase, no warning sound, just a single strike with enough force to break the spine of the prey, from large fish, lizards, to even baby crocodiles. In the world of the shoebill, the scariest one is not the loudest, but the one who stays silent the longest. After a predator terrifying for its absolute stillness, we meet a creature terrifying in a completely different way. Not because it kills, not because it attacks, but because it refuses to grow up. The eternal youth, axolotl. The axolotl is a fully aquatic salamander in Mexico, bearing an appearance as if it just stepped straight out of an unfinished sci-fi movie. Its face is always bewildered, with 2 rows of fringed horns on both sides of its head looking like fish gills, and a permanent expression as if it were witnessing the world for the first time and hasn't yet comprehended what is happening. But don't let that gentle, even naive appearance deceive you. The axolotl possesses an extremely rare biological phenomenon called neoteny, simply put, remaining forever young. Throughout its entire life, it never matures in the usual way. It retains its larval form, does not transform, does not metamorphose, and does not evolve into the next stage. But strangely, it still reproduces normally, lives fully, and exists as a complete individual. And then comes the part that leaves the scientific community speechless. The axolotl can regrow legs, regrow its tail, and regrow lost internal organs. Even if severely injured, it has the ability to regenerate an entire part of its brain, leaving no scars, no deformities, no structural errors. It is not a temporary patch to survive, but a complete regeneration, exactly as if it had never been injured. A tiny, slow, seemingly fragile creature, yet holding what humans have always desired most throughout thousands of years of evolution: the ability to start over. If the axolotl stuns humans with its near-immortal regenerative ability, then the next creature puzzles scientists in a different way. Not because it does anything extraordinary, but because of a very simple question that still lacks a complete answer. How does it manage to live here? The deep-sea survivor, Yeti crab. This is the Yeti crab, a crab species that 99% of humans will never have the chance to see in real life. Not because it is rare, but because it chooses to live in a place where humans cannot possibly survive. The Yeti crab was discovered at a depth of over 2,100 meters at the bottom of the South Pacific. There, sunlight has never reached. Everything is immersed in eternal darkness. The water pressure is great enough to crush almost any terrestrial creature in just a few seconds if they dared to appear here. Its appearance is equally as bizarre as its habitat. All the limbs of the Yeti crab are covered by a layer of pale yellow, shaggy, and dense fine hair, looking exactly like the fur of the legendary Yeti snowman. At a glance, it looks gentle, even a bit funny, but where it lives is not gentle at all. The Yeti crab lives right next to underwater volcanic vents, hydrothermal fissures where the water can heat up to 400 degrees Celsius, filled with heavy metals and highly toxic compounds. An environment that just touching for a split second is enough to kill the vast majority of other creatures. For the Yeti crab, that is home. And the scariest thing is not that it endures this environment, but that even until now, scientists still cannot say for sure how the Yeti crab survives. There is a hypothesis that the bizarre fur is not for keeping warm or for beauty, but is actually a place to cultivate special types of bacteria. These bacteria have the ability to neutralize toxins, process deadly compounds, and even create a food source for the host. In other words, the Yeti crab doesn't just survive in hell, it learns to live with hell, and even cooperates with hell to continue existing. While the Yeti crab makes people shudder at its ability to survive in hell at the bottom of the ocean, the next creature is terrifying in a completely different way. It doesn't need a harsh environment to become dangerous because it itself is a walking nightmare. The apex of Madagascar, fossa. This is the largest mammalian predator on the island of Madagascar. At first glance, you wouldn't know where to classify it. Not exactly a cat, not quite like a dog, and certainly not a true lynx. It has a long and slender body, a tail almost as long as its entire body, sharp teeth, and the cold eyes of a killer born only to pursue and execute. The fossa is the absolute terror of the Madagascar forest, especially for lemurs, creatures famous for being agile, skilled at climbing, and almost completely mastering the forest canopy. But the problem is that the fossa climbs even better than them. It can launch itself from one canopy to another, gripping tightly with all four limbs, twisting its body in midair like a living rope. The chase is neither loud nor prolonged. Just a few short seconds and the prey disappears. The fossa doesn't need sophisticated ambushes, doesn't need pack coordination, and doesn't need numbers to overwhelm. Just a single individual is enough to turn the entire forest into a deadly domain, where every creature understands that they could become a target at any moment. But the irony is that the ruler of this food chain is on the verge of extinction. The number of fossas in the wild is currently only a few hundred individuals. Forests are destroyed, prey gradually disappears, and their living space is shrinking day by day. And the ghost of Madagascar, the creature that once made the whole forest fall silent when it appeared, is gradually becoming a name that humans only know through images and memories. After the supreme predator of the jungle, we meet a creature following a completely opposite path. It doesn't chase or attack, nor does it need fangs or strength.
The only thing it possesses is the ability to disappear.
The invisible phantom, glass-wing butterfly. The glass-wing butterfly is one of the most bizarre creatures of the tropical South American region. At first glance, you will feel like you are looking right through it, because the wings of this butterfly are so transparent they are almost invisible, like fragile crystals suspended in midair. But that transparency is not because the wings are thin, nor because it is weaker or more fragile than other butterflies. The secret lies in the surface of the wings. There exists an extremely special nanostructure capable of bending and scattering light. When light hits it, it does not reflect back to the human eye or a predator. Simply put, the opponent's brain does not realize that this creature exists right in front of them. But that is only the first line of defense. Since it was a caterpillar, the glasswing butterfly has eaten poisonous plants. These toxins are not excreted. They slowly and silently accumulate in the body until they become a part of the creature itself. The result is that any predator foolish enough to swallow a glasswing butterfly will pay a heavy price, not with a wound, but with their own life. Therefore, while the fossa survives by hunting and overwhelming, the glasswing butterfly survives by a much more sophisticated strategy. It gives the surrounding world no reason to touch it. A creature that doesn't need to run away, nor does it need to fight. They just need to be there but unseen by anyone. If the glasswing butterfly survives by disappearing, then this next creature chooses a completely different path. It doesn't hide or camouflage, nor does it need poison. The only thing it possesses is an explosion. The underwater sniper, snapping shrimp. The snapping shrimp is a shrimp so small that if you just glance at it, you would never think it could pose a danger to anyone. Modest size, ordinary appearance, nothing suggests that this is a creature to be wary of. But just look closely at its deformed claw, and all those thoughts will instantly change. This claw is not used for pinching, nor for tearing or holding prey, but it was born to shoot. When the snapping shrimp snaps its claw shut powerfully, it creates a high-speed water jet hurtling at over 100 kilometers per hour. At the same time, a loud bang rings out, reaching 218 decibels, louder than a rifle shot, and powerful enough to shake the surrounding environment. But that explosion is not just sound. The snapping of the claw creates a microscopic cavitation bubble in the water. This bubble lasts for less than a millisecond, but when it collapses, the temperature inside can shoot up to thousands of degrees Celsius in a split second. A flash of light, a sudden pressure spike, and the prey is stunned, paralyzed, or killed instantly on the spot, before it can even comprehend what just happened. But the most terrifying thing doesn't lie in the individual. When hundreds, even thousands of snapping shrimp live together in one area, the surrounding ocean becomes so loudly chaotic. A continuous crackling sound forms a dense wall of noise, so strong that it can disrupt the sonar systems of military submarines, making even the most modern equipment struggle to navigate. A tiny creature, though lacking fangs or giant muscles, possesses one of the most terrifying physical weapons ever to exist in nature, neatly packed into a single claw. After a tiny creature that can create an explosion strong enough to jam military submarines, this next creature makes people stop in their tracks just because it looks so wrong. The sheep pig, Mangalica. This is the Mangalica pig, a pig species originating from Hungary, and also the only pig in the world to possess a curly fleece like a sheep. Seeing the Mangalica for the first time, most people think their eyes are deceiving them. A pig, but wearing a thick, curly, fluffy coat, looking exactly like a sheep lost in the middle of a farm. Looking from a distance, it is very hard for the brain to accept that the creature is actually a pig. But the Mangalica is not an impromptu joke of nature. It is the result of intentional crossbreeding hundreds of years ago between domestic pigs and European wild boars. The goal was very clear: to create a pig breed that could withstand the cold, endure harsh conditions, and survive well in the freezing climates of Central and Eastern Europe. The thick, curly coat is its biological armor, keeping it warm, resisting wind, rain, and snow, helping the Mangalica live healthily in places where many other pig breeds can hardly survive for long. In stark contrast to that somewhat wild and bizarre appearance, the Mangalica pig has a very gentle and mild nature. They are not aggressive or destructive, nor easily stressed or anxious like many modern industrial pig breeds that are raised in high densities. But what truly made the world pay attention to the Mangalica is not its unique coat, but its meat. The meat of the Mangalica pig possesses a dense marble fat structure. The white fat layers alternate evenly with the lean meat, distributed finely and deeply, creating tenderness, richness, and a distinctive flavor. When cooked, this fat melts slowly, soaking back into every meat fiber, providing a rich but not overwhelming sensation, an experience very few other pig breeds can match. That is why in the world of high-end cuisine, the Mangalica is often dubbed the Wagyu beef of the pork world. An expensive ingredient, hard to raise, hard to breed, and not for the masses. A creature looking like it stepped out of a fairy tale has become a symbol of premium cuisine, just because nature and humans accidentally chose an entirely different evolutionary path for it. And now we will come to the final position, which is also the most bizarre position on this list.
The tragic tusks, Babirusa. This is a species that you will never forget after just one glance, the Babirusa. At first sight, the Babirusa looks like a fairly normal wild pig, a skinny body, long legs, and a somewhat clumsy gait. Nothing too extraordinary until you notice its teeth. The two tusks of the Babirusa do not grow downwards or outwards towards the prey. They are also not used for biting, tearing, or attacking. Instead, they pierce straight through the upper lip, poking out of the skin, and then curve backward towards the forehead like two misplaced bone horns. Looking at them is chilling enough, but if you look closer, you will realize a truth even more terrifying than that bizarre shape. These teeth have no growth limit. They grow continuously throughout its life. The Babirusa does not wear them down naturally without external impact. And if this animal does not frequently ram its head into tree trunks, rocks, or hard objects to naturally grind its teeth down, then at some point, those very teeth will continue to curve and pierce backwards into its skull from the inside. In other words, the Babirusa carries on its head a weapon that does not point outward, nor is it used for hunting or self-defense. Rather, this weapon can kill the animal itself. Biologists consider the Babirusa one of the rare examples of a flawed evolutionary design in nature, where a biological trait does not provide a clear survival advantage and even harbors the risk of harm, yet is still maintained over generations because there isn't enough evolutionary pressure to eliminate it completely. The Babirusa is not a monster, nor is it particularly fierce. It is just a creature trapped within its own body. And sometimes, nature doesn't need to be cruel. Just a slight deviation in the evolutionary process is enough to create a creature that has to live its whole life fighting against itself. There you see, the natural world around us always hides wonders and mysteries that far exceed even the imagination in Hollywood sci-fi movies. Among the 10 creatures just now, which name made you freeze the most? Or do you know any other monstrous species even more bizarre than that? Don't hesitate to share right in the comments section below for me and everyone to know. And if you love these unimaginable discoveries, give a like and hit subscribe now so we can continue to accompany each other on exciting journeys of discovery next time. For now, goodbye and see you again.